my name's Alex Blackburn. I just finished a feature film with my good friend Helen Eden, and the film was called Queering Blackpool's documentary based in Blackpool about the queer scene and the rise and fall, the history and everything in between. So what I wanted to do is to go through creating a DCP. And the reason for this is because we were showing it in several cinemas. We're getting it ready at time recording now. We're getting it ready for film festivals. And DCP is a digital cinema package. And that is for playing it back as a standardized format. Like a JPEG is a standard image file. The important thing to remember is a DCP is for playing it professionally in cinemas. It can be played locally on computers and things like that, but it's kind of mainly for theatrical release. So this video is for indie filmmakers, film students, and post-production pros. But through this video, hopefully, you won't have to be a pro. You can just follow my basic video on how to create a DCP. So what is a DCP? A DCP is the standard format used for digital theatrical projection. It's a folder containing everything that's needed, the sound, the audio, the color, everything like that. And it's optimized to be played back in a cinema. You wouldn't really use it anywhere else. So I'm going to show you now how to create DCP really simply. For this tutorial though, it's going to be used in DaVinci Resolve. It's going to be created in DaVinci Resolve Studio. Now you have to have Studio version of DaVinci Resolve 20 I've got on to be able to create the DCP in the first place. So let's crack on. So this is my interface or timeline within Resolve, and we're just going to check out how to do this and go through it really simply. So an important aspect to this is I'm already in one of the formats, the standardized formats for cinema release. We shot this in DCI 4K on the whole, and I've conformed the clips, and I'll show you what that means within this video. I've conformed the clips to be DCI 4K, which you can see on the screen. It's a slightly wider aspect ratio than normal 16:9. 16:9 is the standard aspect ratio for majority of television stuff. But if you watch Netflix quite a lot and you watch one of the big shows, you'll see tiny black bars, horizontal black bars on the top and the bottom, and that is usually DCI 4K. So I've already created the DCP kinda. I'm going to show you what aspect ratio and format my film's in. So this film's 97 minutes. I'm going to show you that now. So if I right click on the timeline and then go to timelines, timeline settings, and this is my aspect ratio. It's 3996 by 2160, and that's DCI flat 185 by 1, and it's 24 frames, and that's perfect for cinema. There are different aspect ratios like anamorphic and 16:9, like a standard 16:9, but this is the most standardized format for cinema outside of anamorphic. Let's go back to OK. So what's good practice really is making sure the timeline name is, you want to have complete ownership over your film. So the DCP will either go on a drive to the festival or a physical drive like one of these, and then you'd want to label it so you've got ownership with your name, and almost like you want to keep remembering it's your film, but you're handing it over to someone, so the projection is out of your control. So with this, I'm going to call this, so instead of Queering Blackpool DCP tutorial, I'm going to call it Queering Blackpool, and then my name, Alex Blackburn, and I'm going to call this 4K. I'm going to call this 4K. I'm going to call this 4K DCI flat. DCI flat. It's called Queering Blackpool, Alex Blackburn, 4K DCI. So it's always, because there's so many files you're dealing with, hundreds of files, like you can see on the timeline, you want a nice, simple, consistent name. And this is good for when it's being ingested in the cinema, so that's really important. Ingestion is when the files are copied over, like literally ingesting food, if it's you or I. but in the cinema terms, it's ingesting into the hard drive in the cinema itself. So what you want to do now you've conformed the name and it looks really nice. So I'm going to press Control-C to copy the name. Then I'm going to go to File, Save Project As, and then this is where you want effectively a project that's just for the DCP. Let's go like this. Going to go Control-V this time on a PC and press save. Got DCP. DCP. First thing you got to do is make sure the timeline is DCI 4K or conforms to cinema aspect, spell that wrong, ratios. And I've just saved the project, saved DCP project. Hope you can see that. Let's go to File, Project Manager, and then you can see here I've got a Querying Blackpool, because the original project was Querying Blackpool, or Neon Dreams, that was the working title, 2024. So I'm going to open up the DCP one. You can see at the top it's now called Querying Blackpool Alex Blackburn 4K DCI Flat. That's important. Everything's important, because otherwise you'll make a mistake or two. And the reason I'm going through this is because I know it's worked for me, because this has been shown in fully fledged cinemas with laser projectors and all of that. So this is the way it works for me. There might be other ways, there might be other tick boxes and things like that along the way that other people go, oh, I've done that, but this is the way I did it. So the next step is to set the format for the audio. And we do this really simply. The standard is 5.1, and you want to make sure you do that. Even if you record in stereo, that's fine, because this will help with that. And then the cinema, there's some magic juice in there somewhere. It'll sound really lovely in the cinema, so it has to be in a 5.1 format, and we'll just do that now. So for us to do that, we go to Fairlight, which deals with the audio, bus format, and then we change this from stereo to 5.1. So you go down to 5, you go 5.1, and then you press OK. So that basically puts in the standard 5.1 audio format for cinemas. That's the first of important steps, and there are many. So the next step is to go to the deliver page, and that's where we fine-tune the actual delivery format, make sure everything conforms properly to cinema. There's one big important step that when I first did this I didn't do, and then the cinema told me about, oh god, can you do that so we can show it on all projectors? I'll go into that in detail in a sec. So the next step is to go to the deliver page, which is a little rocket on DaVinci Resolve. This will be the same on PC and a Mac, but it should be. Okay, so this is your full timeline at the bottom. Full timeline here. Okay, let's just string that out like that. So this is where we have all our settings for the file name and make sure we get it right first time. You don't want to have to redo this because it's not tricky, but you don't want to have to keep going back and doing this. It's very time consuming. Oh, time consuming wise, if it's a feature film like I've got here, 97 minutes that I completed, I did the full edit on this film. It will take a long time to export because it's the highest quality you can probably get for any export of video is a DCP. So let's go through that. So I'm going to export it to the desktop, which is fairly standard, but obviously you want to go to an organized folder rather than, if you've got a messy desktop, you don't want this massive file to go there, get hidden away somewhere. So we're going to go to Format and go to DCP. That's near the top. Cacado JPEG 2000. No idea what that means, but it's right. Type 4K DCI flat. What you want to do is make sure that you follow this in particular in a sometimes the tick boxes are not ticked or ticked. So just be careful and follow me here. So you want to make sure the use interlope packaging is deselected. Now the first time I did this, it was ticked, and you want to remove that. I've no idea why. I've done my tutorial work before, and it's been recommended. Now, depending on your file size, you don't really want to mess around with too many things if you don't understand what they are. So I've left my maximum bit rate, as you can see here, as 250 megabytes or megabits per second. No idea which one's which. I wouldn't lower it or higher it, because if you higher it, the files are going to be gigantic. I think this ends up being 116 gig, something like that. A lot of main feature films are around 300 or just below 300 gig. That's what a cinema projectionist told me. Then you want to leave disabled on slope rate control and quality on automatic, because it will just, you know, give you the best quality anyway. So that covers this section of creating the DCP. So we're going to go for the advanced settings now. So the advanced settings are nothing to be scared of, and they were a little bit scary when I first did my DCP, when I originally did this, because this has already been shown in cinemas, and it's just taking your time, and I'll go through that with you now. So there's only a few things you've got to do on this advanced settings, so let's have a look at that now. So you click on the down arrow here, so we've got the advanced settings showing. You want to keep your pixel aspect ratio the same as on Square, unless you know it's CinemaScope. Data level, auto, color tag, space tag and gamma tag, you want to keep those the same. And the data burn-in, keep that the same as project. Bypass re-encode when possible, you want to leave that on there. Don't ask me why, but it works because I've shown this in a cinema. Render all video tracks, that's kind of obvious. Now this is an important step I almost forgot, just slight delay there. But I'll just look at my notes on this other screen. Where it says enable flat pass here, off. Now you don't want that. You want to make sure it says with clip settings. And what that means is it'll keep the color information when you export. Obviously you want your color, you've done all your grades and everything like that. This is an important step. So when you're creating your DCP, you can't go back in and edit it. You don't want to be doing that. You want to do this at the very end. So I'm going to make sure, you've got to make sure that you do this right at the end effectively. Don't know why I repeat myself. So you want to make sure that the edit is finished. We'll make sure the edit is finished. So that is the end of the advanced settings now. You can close that up. Hopefully I'm not going through this too quick. Please let me know in the comments, like and subscribe and all of that. But yeah, that's the advanced settings done now. So now we're going to composition settings. This is another step or window to go into. Don't be scared. There's loads of things you and I've done this before, but I don't even know what they are. So if you follow these settings, they were great for my documentary. I shot it in 6K. It's going to be projected in 4K, which is quite lucky because of a laser projector, but just take your time with every step of this. And you can always pause this or ask me questions in the comments. So when you've closed advanced, composition settings is just underneath. So if we open up the edit on composition names, that's just below advanced settings. Click on edit. We're going to put our film title up here. So we're going to call this Queering Blackpool because that's the name of the film, obviously. You can't have spaces, I just tried, as you can see on the keyboard. Let's call this, so you can't put the full name in, so it's kind of limited. So Queering Blackpool or QB, let's call it QB because I'm the only one with this. QB, actually no, Q Blackpool, sorry, take that back. Let's go Q, that's my surname, Blackpool, there we go. So obviously we're going to build this thread out here at the top here. This is the file name. So this is the exact file name that the cinema is going to get used to, the ingestion process is used to in the cinema. And this is the same for every cinema release, whether you've got one showing or you've got 1,000 showings. This is exactly the same way you do it. Okay, so with a film title, we're going to go down and build this thread out here. We're going to go to 2D because it's 2D. And we are next going to go to the audio language. Obviously it's English for this instance, English UK. And there's no subtitles, so don't need to put that on. And then There's no subtitles, so we can put that on. Territory, UK. Don't know why I'm doing that. Go right to the end. So you put in your own country and effectively where it's created, because all this stuff matters. Got no rating because it's not rated yet. This film has been rated by the BBFC as a 15 for lots of saucy reasons. The audio type is 5.1 surround, like we changed before. The bus format for the audio, it all feeds into this, so it's very, very important you get these things right. We're going to go to resolution. Now, you don't change the resolution because you'll end up messing up the file. What you do is you use actual width and height. Actual width and height. I wish I could speak English properly, and I'm supposed to be English. So you got to make sure that's right, and the way you do that is make sure your timeline's right first with your aspect ratio shot in, and that standard was from time of filming all the way up until delivery. The aspect ratio has been exactly the same. I've never had to mess things around, so that's just for me for consistency. And then the studio here, it's not really that relevant, not really that important, but I'm going to put custom. I'm going to put GRA. GRA is for granular films. That's the name of my little production company, faux production company. Facility, it's not really that important, so I'm going to leave that as none. You've got to make sure it goes on SMTPE and OV. These are just standards, and these are the most common standards across projector in the US, projector in the UK. So it's very important that these things are consistent. Oh, one thing I forgot. Can anyone see? So there's not a group here, but can anyone see what I've missed? What I can see here, have a little look, is the frame rate. So I've got the frame rate wrong. The frame rate is 24 frames. It's not 23.97 or whatever it is. Did I get that right? Yep, I did. That's the frame rate of the film. It should automatically get that right, but you've got to make sure these things are all correct. And then you press OK. So that's really important. And then the next step is the consistency with the naming. So where it says composition name, you want to highlight all of this. Press Control C on a PC. I'm doing it. And go to file name. So I named the file name incorrectly. You've got to use the composition name. This is really important for cinemas. So in the file name here, go to Control V on a PC. And then you've got consistency there. The composition name is exactly the same as the file name. That you've got to make sure that's right. So we're at the final step now. Add this to the render queue. But there's one more big important tip. I'll go into that as soon as I stop mumbling. Now, when films used to be shown in cinemas, there used to be a stack of reels in small canisters, and then you see the big plates where films would be projected from, and it will be taped to splice together, and that'd be one thing. But there's a really interesting point where you need to create reels within your DCP. Even though it's a digital file, it kind of makes no sense. You have to create reels. But as I found out, when I showed this film in cinemas, when we tested the film, he said the projectionist who works for a big cinema chain in the UK, I recognise worldwide, but I don't really want to name that at the moment. We tested it, and he said if you create digital reels for your DCP, you can play on all projectors. But when I tested this and I didn't create reels, and it was a single reel, just like you can see here, these choices, the reel list, single reel or intervals, they could only play it on the biggest screen. There's going to be strict rules for playing it back, so you've got to make sure it works on every digital projector that requires a DCP, so it's best to put reels in. That's a trick I missed the first time I created it, but once I created reels within the DCP, once I created reels within the DCP, it worked absolutely fine. I'm going to change this regular intervals to 20. Now, I reduced this to 18, and I did this because of paranoia more than anything else. 20 will be fine. They said that's a standard reel size. But I changed this to 18 just to make sure I changed this to 18 just to make sure that it plays back fine. When you play it back, reels used to have what you call a cigarette burn in the mark, where the reels will be lined up, but you don't need to do that. You don't need to worry about that, because it'll play back and you won't even see a reel change, because it's just one file. It's kind of crazy, but you've got to go with it. That is everything. Sorry about the verbal diarrhea. And when you go to add to render queue, when this starts to export, the colors will look awful. Now they'll look really saturated. That's just a preview thing without the full color rendering. And you don't have to worry about this. Don't be shocked by it. The way you can test the DCP once you've exported it, you can re-import it into your editing software and play it back. That's it, everyone. Thank you for joining me on this journey of creating a DCP for my feature film, Querying Blackpool, that I co-directed, co-produced, and I edited. My other producer is Helen Eden. She's wonderful. And this is how I did the DCP. If you've got any questions or anything like that, please don't hesitate to ask. Please like and subscribe the video. Do tell me if I waffled on too much. I need to go through things as carefully as I remember. You can always pause things and go through the settings. But I'm more than happy to answer any questions at all. Please add those in the comments. And see you all soon. Bye-bye.